All right, Matty, welcome back to the Ask Matty Show. Matty, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing all right. A little tired from the holiday weekend, but overall feeling good, feeling excited, ready to answer you guys' crypto questions.
We are excited to answer your guys' crypto questions. I grabbed a ton of them, a lot to do with HBAR, maybe a crypto named Songbird that we may or may not chart today. But before we get into that, team, become a member at cryptocharge.com. That's where we do education on the daily. We have a show after this one. So if you want to see that show, click the link in the pinned comment below. You can start your free trial and check us out there for that daily education, which is important if you want to grow. We got a big year coming up, so it's important that you get educated today. Below that, what do we got? Clothing. Shop.cryptocharge.com. Get a hold of that. But also, team, finally, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Greatly helps us grow. But in today's show, your comments, your questions, your hot takes. We're about to get into it. Matty, are you ready?
Let's do this thing, bro.
CryptoTune2134 says, people compare HBAR to XRP a lot, but what is so different about it to invest in?
Yeah, so really I would say that, from a feature standpoint, they are very similar, and that's why they compare them, a lot. They also belong in the family of coins that could potentially be ISO 20022 compliant, which is basically, essentially, a payment, right? That's the efficiency we're looking for when it comes to payments, is that compliance. But again, there's no such thing as a token that's ISO 2002, right? There's no such thing. But really, it comes down to consensus. So as we talked about previously, HBAR uses a hash graph model, a non-linear consensus, in order to get that validation done, right? Whereas you have, the XRP model, you just have this handful of validators. They don't earn any rewards from validating, and they secure the network, right? So the consensus is very different, but you are able to execute a lot of the same things. Now, up to, I want to say it was about a year and some change ago, the NFTs became live on the XRP ledger. So up to that point, there was maybe an advantage to HBAR that XRP didn't have. Now that we have that amendment, and now that NFTs can live natively on the XRP ledger, they're very, very similar. It really just comes down to throughput and consensus. They are very, very close when it comes to throughput and consensus. I tend to lean a little bit more towards XRP with my investments and my dollar cost averaging. One, because I've just been studying and tracking XRP and Ripple a lot longer than I have with HBAR. But I also look at the partnerships that Ripple has, and I think that they're going to continuously, over longer periods of time, probably blow up a little bit more than HBAR. Now, again, I do think that it's interesting that they have the governance council on HBAR, right, where you have these different companies that have, an equal share in voting, and then those seats come up at a certain time. You can't buy back in for new seats. So they do try to keep it pretty decentralized on the Hedera network. So overall, I like both of them. I do hold a bag of both. I'm just more bullish on XRP long term.
Blockball says, where should we buy HBAR from?
So if I have the opportunity to buy something on Coinbase, I just will. They have deep liquidity. I have the Coinbase One membership, so I don't pay fees on my DCA. Of course, you still have like a trading fee, but you don't have those the transaction fee every single time, right? There's still gonna be like a spread between the actual price and what you actually get. And then you also can use the advanced trade in Coinbase, guys. So if you guys are not using that feature, that's money being left on the table. So anytime you have limits, do not set that limit anywhere else. Go into the Coinbase advanced trade. You're gonna actually switch that. At the top, you'll see at the top corner, you'll see like an option to go to advanced trade, and you're gonna be able to place orders, limit orders in there, and you're gonna get actually slightly better pricing. So for your DCA, obviously that's not practical to go and set up a limit every single day or go market execute manually every day, right? That completely defeats the idea of the automated DCA. But if you guys are gonna be setting limits, go ahead into the advanced trade feature, and you're gonna be able to set really, really granular limits, and you're gonna get filled at prices that you're happy with.
Matty, before we get into the next HBAR question, I have to ask, are you buying any HBAR right now?
So the HBAR DCA is not on, and that's just because I see opportunities with other assets that I am going to want to hold on to a portion of my bag long term. Now, I will be letting go of all of my HBAR bag at the top of this cycle, and people are like, "What? But it's so great! You understand that there's NFTs and it's so cheap, and you can facilitate payments the same way you do with XRP, right? I can't have every asset can't be a long term hold, right? My goal is to create more and more and more liquidity for myself each and every cycle. Now, of course, we want to hold on to some of that in hard assets long term, because one, we're going to reap the rewards of bigger rewards down the road, right? We also want to pay taxes on assets that we haven't sold yet, right? So that's a big benefit there as well. But HBAR is just one of those that I'm like, all right, I've got all these other assets already that I'm planning on holding long term, some Zcash, some Casper, some XRP, right? I've got all these other assets I plan on already holding a chunk of. I'm just not holding that HBAR long term.
Matty, one more question here, because you just made me think about some of my other payment solutions. So I have a 6-coin portfolio here. two of which are payment solutions, XRP and HBAR. Matty, I was just thinking about this today. Would it make sense for me to consolidate that HBAR into XRP, just considering my portfolio, it's only 6 coins and I have 2 payment plays? Would that make sense to consolidate that?
So I think because you already have that 6 coin portfolio, right, it's already pretty condensed. I would say probably hold on to the HBAR bag. And again, this comes down to that rotational opportunity, right? What we don't want to see is, hey, we consolidate our HBAR into XRP and now we only have 5 coins, and then HBAR goes first and it does a 2x or a 3x, and then XRP is kind of just still sitting flat, waiting its turn. Maybe it's not ready for that rotational opportunity to go at least parabolic yet, and you're maybe missing out on some of those compounding gains. So if you've already built bags up, you like both of those assets or 3 of those assets or whatever ends up being, it's probably a good idea, especially if it's a good quality fundamental asset, to hold on to that, see which one pops first, and then you can make that rotation. There's no obligation to rotate back into HBAR, right? Or vice versa, right? XRP pops first, HBAR hasn't done a lot yet. Take some of those XRP profits, rotate those into HBAR, and continue to play it that way. That's one of the big things that Kevin Cage preaches as well, is those compounding gains. Because when you look at your projected returns, right, you could say, all right, I'm going to sell this at this and this target, but that's really kind of more just like the layer 1 play of like how we're not to be confused with layer 1 tokens, but like that's the layer 1 of how you could approach it. But when you think about, even if you're able to do, let's say, 3 rotations out throughout everything you have in your bag, you have 6 to 10 assets, you're able to do 3 successful rotations. That takes those gains you had and can potentially make them 10 or 20x more of whatever you expected to be your end of cycle expectations. So that's one of the things that we have to pay attention to when the cycle comes up is, it's not just, hey, we have these targets, I'm going to buy here and sell here. There's a lot of trading opportunities in between that we should capitalize on so we can, take advantage of that bull run, because the bull run does not last that long, guys. We're talking about like 12 to 18 months. Everyone always tells me at the end of every cycle, oh, this is the one where the utility sets in and it goes on for 10 years, it goes on for 5 years, but that's just not how economic growth happens, right? You get these booms of economic growth and then you have periods of economic contraction. That's very, very healthy and normal market behavior. So we want to capitalize on that. We want to make as much money during the bull run. We want to take profits, and then we want to sit on cash and or be shorting the market on the way down.
All right, last HBAR question here from Kalum Beck 2001 says, how much do you think HBAR will be worth in 10 years time? Matty, could you lay that out for us?
Yeah, sure. So, even when I give it like a relative number, right? I think that I kind of do it more reverse, right? Someone says to me, hey, someone tells me XRP is going to reach $200 this cycle, right? And we look at the market cap and we do the math and we go, okay, this is how much money we have to come into the market. That's probably not feasible this time around, but this could happen over multiple, cycles. Let's talk about maybe 3 cycles. We assume that the cycle lasts, let's say 3 to 4 years for a bull and a bear cycle to complete, right? So we're talking about maybe 2 to 3 cycles out. That puts us in like that, 8 to 12 year range, right? So that's where I think a lot of people's math comes from, but there's no way to say like it'll happen in this exact amount of time. We can look, of course, at the Fibonacci though, and we can kind of see a little bit, where we could potentially land. And again, HBAR is a really good example of what I'm looking for here on Casper. I think I brought this up before. I just want to make sure I reiterate this, is that you have this illiquidity wick here on the Binance chart, right? So you have HBAR opening an offering at roughly 32 cents. It crashes, you consolidate a bit here around 3 cents, 3.4 cents, right? And then you crash to multiple new lows. So you actually drop below a penny here on the Binance chart. We finally get cranking here in 2020, a little sideways accumulation, come up and we fill that wick, right? We fill this wick up in here. And that's really what I'm looking for on the Casper chart. And I think a lot of people are ignoring it because all they see is this right here and they can't picture any of this happening because of the way the price looks right now. They're not paying attention to the fundamentals. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple ranges here. So let's go from the wick, and we're going to go to the bodies here at the below. So you guys can see that actually HBAR reached a perfect 1.618, which is the golden ratio within the Fibonacci sequence, right? It's if you were to divide it out or multiply it out, it's always going to be 5, that golden ratio. And of course, now we're below that 236. Again, I'm a big fan of Kevin Cage, been friends with him for a little while now. One of the biggest things that he always talks about is anything below the 236 is a good accumulation opportunity long term. And I absolutely agree with that because you're mitigating most of the risk, right? Because all you really have to look forward to from there is at least some of these retracements, right? Looking at between 23 and 26 cents. Now, if we were to look towards a full extension, right, which would be a 4.236 up here, it says that HBAR should be worth somewhere around $1.52, right? So from current market price, we're trading around 4.8 cents right now up to a full extension. That puts us at like a 30x, right? Nothing to complain about. In longer term, of course, we can always look deeper into that sequence. We can see that if we were to look towards the 377, which some other assets like have exceeded this, right? Bitcoin's exceeded the 377. Other assets that have had more time to mature have exceeded the 377, right? We could be looking at a 3-figure HBAR, right? $134, $83, $51. So of course, we can always look to any of these targets long term. I do think that HBAR probably reaches out to $1 to $2. I think that we definitely crack, probably into that $2 range. Do I think that we're going to reach $19 to $51 this cycle around? No. I think that would probably be more of your 10 to 15 year plan with HBAR if you were going to keep, staking it, keep holding on to it. But again, guys, I always want you to remember, the reason that I am so selective about what I'm going to hold long term is because there's always new opportunity, right? This space is very young. We're going to continue to see new solutions, new opportunities, new proprietary developments come out. And we want to make sure we have the liquidity to attack those new opportunities in addition to stacking our long-term bags, right? Because I know some people are like, I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and ETH every single month, and that's going to be my retirement, and not selling anything for 50 years, right? What if, the hype of Bitcoin and ETH fade out and, we'd never reach these, $500,000, $700,000, $800,000 prices for Bitcoin. And we can create these buy and sell walls because there isn't that demand there for it. And we have other things to facilitate those assets, right? So that's why when I do hold into my long-term bags, it's really not a huge amount. We're talking about anywhere between 10 and 25%. And it's really going to be just a small number of those assets, right? HBAR for me, gone. Energy Web Token, gone. DAG, gone, right? So all of those smaller holdings for me are going to be taken, or I'm going to be taking profits at those targets, and I'm going to be sitting on that in order to capitalize on new opportunities. XRP, Zcash, Casper, those are going to be thrown in cold storage, and those are not going to be touched for a very long time because I see the long-term value in those, and I think that even the short-term value of those is exponential. So, you guys can absolutely approach it however you want. If you think that you found that long-term hold and you want to hold all of it for a bigger portion, that's perfectly fine. I'm a trader and I'm an analyst, so I want to make sure that as I pay attention to these opportunities over this next decade, which will probably be when we start to see these markets level out, right? This type of parabolic behavior doesn't go on forever. So I just want you guys to remember that, right? When we have these parabolas and we see the markets going crazy, as the space becomes more regulated, as we start to see some of this other garbage coins fall off and there's more liquidity being focused on the higher quality assets, we won't get these incredible spikes like we get now, right? It'll be more like the stock market. The stock market growth becomes less and less over long periods of time, right? Now, of course, it'll still be exponential growth because we're talking about tech here, and that always moves a lot more volatile than the rest of other markets. But this volatility will not last forever. So make sure you're taking this opportunity, understanding how big this opportunity is, and this volatility won't last.
Matty, so what you're telling me here is HBAR is 100x crypto over multiple cycles here.
Yes, I am. Over multiple cycles. Multiple cycles.
Okay, Dino, Songbird TA?
Sure, brother. Let's do that. I think we actually tried to pull that up on the last episode. TradingView was having a complete panic attack right after I hyped up how great TradingView was. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at that chart there. And we got an ugly chart. I'm not going to lie. Songbird is actually one of those that when it was airdropped. So if you guys are not familiar, Songbird was a token that was airdropped to XRP holders. So you had an option to either leave them on hot exchange, and a lot of people just bring them on a hot exchange for the snapshot, which is basically like a picture of a blockchain of the blockchain, right? So they would say, okay, during this time, these wallets held this much XRP, and we're going to distribute, based on what your holdings were. You could also use the XRP toolkit. So if you guys are in cold storage, you don't have to remove them from cold storage. You can go to the XRP toolkit. You can go ahead and basically connect your wallet and basically sign up for that airdrop without having to ever leave cold storage. When I get these airdrops, because I've been an XRP holder for a long time, so I've received several airdrops now, I sell it for XRP. And some people are like, well, you never know, it might do really well. I don't care. It's free money that was just dropped into my wallet, and I know which assets I like a lot, right? And I know a lot about them, and I know fundamentally that if you had to put a gun to my head and say, Matt, should I buy Songbird or should I buy XRP? XRP over and over and over and over again. There's not a set of circumstances where you could ask me this free airdrop versus this long established asset that has both incredible fundamentals as well as incredibly good TA over long periods of time. So we look at Songbird here. We're trying to establish some sort of double bottom. It looks a lot like the Moon River chart. It looks a lot like the ICP chart. It looks like a lot of those assets that have this monster illiquidity wick. And I know you guys are probably thinking, well, Matt, you just showed me the Casper chart and the HBAR chart, right? And I think those structurally look more different than what we're seeing here on Songbird, right? Where you just kind of had like this sell pressure without any real rallies in here. So like the only real rallies that we see in here is this rally in here. and maybe this rally in here, right? And then we kind of had like a little bit of a correction back here in 2023. There's been no real demand coming in here, right? These are more profit-taking zones that have happened from people exiting their positions, but you haven't had like these corrective moves to, that show that there is huge buy bids down in those areas. There's just incredible sell pressure. And this is why I'm very skeptical of a lot of airdrops, is because if I receive something for free, I'm probably going to approach the buying and selling of that asset a lot differently as if I had paid something for that asset, right? Most people did not buy Songbird, right? They bought XRP, they held XRP, they received the airdrop, and they either held it or they sold it, and there's really no in between. So for me, I wouldn't continue to stack any Songbird. I mean, we're kind of already, in that sub penny region here. At one point back here in 2022, we were trading at 8 cents. So if you got it for free, I'd say hold on to it at this point and see if we maybe come back towards these previous all-time highs. I would not recommend DCAing into here right now. We did try to find some sort of double bottom in here, right? We kind of had a little bit of a bottom back here in June of this year. We're trying to establish this as a floor of support, but technically this wick goes a lot lower, right? This wick means that we could come a lot lower here from current market price. We could probably drop another like 80% from current market price. Now, does it have to do that? No. Does it have to fill this wick? No. But I have seen Blocktopia, Moon River, a lot of these assets, you get this crazy wick and it comes all the way to the bottom and fills the entire thing. So, again, if you just got the airdrop, you've been holding on to it, you're just curious, just hold on to it at this point and see what happens. I would not recommend buying anymore.
Many figures 4673222. Are there any Metaverse coins that would be a worthy add to my portfolio?
So I would say probably not necessarily Metaverse specific, but if we're going to talk about like Metaverse gaming and the gaming sector, overlapping with crypto, I would say that probably the biggest project right now that's a good fundamental and technical grab is Gala. My other business partner, Brian, he's really, really big on Metaverse projects, and that's one of his biggest holdings when it comes to Metaverse tokens. Of course, you can go with some of the classics that are not necessarily as popular in relations to building, but that doesn't mean they're not going to do well in the next cycle, being Sandbox and Decentraland, right? Those are kind of two of the OG projects out there. Now, do I think that the infrastructure on Sandbox and Decentraland are good enough to host some of the AAA games that are going to be coming out that people are going to want to put on the Metaverse? No, I don't. I think that Gala is probably better suited to facilitate upcoming Metaverse projects. So that would be the number one coin that I look into for that. And again, if you guys ever want TA on this stuff, you guys jump in the Discord, you ask for a quick chart, generally within an hour or less, we got a chart for you guys and a little analysis, even if it's not something we cover in the coin library.
A lot of good stuff today, Matty. A lot of good things. Matty, anything to leave the team with here? I mean, we're already in September. I feel like with every show, we're just inching closer to the end of the year, Matty. But anything to leave the team with here?
Yeah, it goes by quick, right? I think that one of the things that we saw kind of towards the beginning of this year, right, is towards the end of last year, right, we had a pretty big sell-off in the markets. Top of the year, we had a really big rally, right? Now, as we come towards the end of this year here, right, I think that we have retraced a bit here for Bitcoin. The stock market's very, very elevated. We have the dollar kind of picking up right now a little bit in strength. Generally, we've seen the dollar pick up. That's a good indicator that there could be potential weakness and risk on assets like stocks and cryptocurrencies. We're seeing US oil creep up a little bit right now. It's possible towards the end of this year that we do get some significant depreciation across the markets. And that is not the time to be afraid. That is the time to stick to the plan. If you have the opportunity and the ability to increase the amount you're contributing, again, never, go beyond your budget and what's comfortable, right? Don't be dipping into your emergency savings to buy crypto, but don't be afraid during those periods, because next year is an election year, guys, right? And what do we generally see when we are getting the markets ready for an election year, right? We want a roaring economy, want a good looking stock market, and of course the crypto market is now here to stay. We want a good looking crypto market. So my gut says maybe it's an ugly finisher to the end of this year in a really, really positive 2024 and 2025. So make sure you guys have your ducks in a row. Don't deviate from the plan, and please ignore CNBC, ignore all of the garbage talking heads out there. They're not even analysts, guys. They do not do their own TA. They don't do any of this stuff. They are given a script and they read what's on the script, and they are paid an enormous amount of money to mislead you guys, okay? So block it out. Focus on your plan. Don't feel like you need to be overly diversified, and we are going to have an excellent next 2 years.
I love it, Matty. Words of wisdom. All right, team. That's all we got today. Thank you for joining us, and we will catch you next time. See ya.